Greetings and salutations to our fine podcast audience. Welcome to 3 Peas in a Pod, episode 295.
We made it.
I'm telling you, man, we're so close to 300. I can see it.
Yes.
I feel it.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? We used to do big stuff.
We did. We did it at 100, and I think we did it at... Did we do it at 200?
Yeah.
When did we do the pizza?
200.
That was 200? Yeah.
Oh, well then.
How many years ago was that?
I know.
That's in 2 or 3.
We got to have something at 300.
It was whenever Old Chicago Pizza opened because someone gave us a gift card
Oh, did they?
to Old Chicago Pizza. And we remember we all sat here and ate it.
We did. I remember
We got
that
the
now.
socks. The
Yes.
Peas on Earth socks.
The what?
Mm-hmm.
I still have those socks.
I do. Actually, I wore some holes in
Someone
mine.
sent me a pair of socks.
Yeah.
It said peas on earth. It's got green peas on it.
Wow.
Yeah, it came in with our gift of the
Don't you
gift
love
card.
that's a pun?
Yes.
Its favorite form of
Yes, I know.
humor.
It's not a form of humor. It's a form of cleverness about language.
Which some people find humorous.
Well, I don't know why.
Well, you don't have to.
I also liked how your definition of what humor wasn't could also be considered a definition of humor. Cleverness around language.
Well,
Yeah. You used to-
potentially.
You're pushing it there, Nathan.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was going to say.
Speaking of pushing it,
These two words sound alike, but
that's
they're
right.
not mean the same thing.
Ed's making fun of pun people.
Yes.
We are going to talk about conspiracy theories,
All right.
which everybody on YouTube is.
A lot of
Apparently.
people on
Apparently.
YouTube. A lot of people on
That's
YouTube.
where you can go to find most of them.
You can find conspiracy theories almost anywhere. I
Yes,
bet.
you can. So
And predating the internet.
that's true. We are going to talk about...
Show-stopping comment
That
right
was
there.
it. That was it. That was the end of it.
I didn't know what to say to
I
that.
know, yeah.
I didn't know what to say to that. I'm going to read this I have to warn the audience, a long question.
Are you going to read all of it?
Do I read the whole
1,
one?
2, 3, 4, 5.
It's five paragraphs.
I don't know. I copied it over. You can
You
brought an audible.
You did this, Nathan.
I did.
So-
I brought this over from Reddit.
Send
Charlie,
all-
if you could just put a box over my face while we do this.
Does he not know there's always a box over? his
Oh, that would be awesome.
Does he not know that already?
Yeah.
So if you don't like this long 5-paragraph question, blame Nathan.
All right.
He brung it.
I did.
How do I handle a Christian conspiracy theorist? There's an individual in my life who is a deep Christian conspiracy theorist. It goes far beyond a subtle belief that things aren't as they seem. It has led to almost every conversation being derailed by conversations about blood types, giants, aliens, witchcraft, apocryphal texts, mark of the beast, etc. Oh my. Oh my was
That was
me.
added.
That was me. In church groups, they always find a way to lead conversations down the road of conspiracy and try to rally others, mostly new believers, into their theories and reading material that is accepted as false. Just constant disruption, little focus on the core doctrine of Jesus. Every single thing is a conspiracy and a work of Satan. Several people in my life have come to me since I've met this person and brought to my attention that they feel I am distressed, that I seem exhausted, and truthfully, I feel it. This person gives me a migraine every time I'm around them. They don't accept truth whatsoever. They are on a constant push to get me to believe all their theories and always trying to start groups for new believers to hear their theories as well. Most recently, they've latched onto a few new believers who they are love bombing significantly.
What that phrase means.
I know. And focused on getting them on board with all of this rather than helping them know Jesus. So what do? I've been covered in prayer by those around me. I've tried to distance myself from this person, but they persist. Constant texts all day long, constant push to be close to me, inviting themselves into my inner circle, and so on. End of question.
There you go.
So,
Do we need to figure out what love bombing is?
I've heard of this.
Oh,
Oh,
well, then you
wow.
should explain
What is
it. What is love bombing?
It's typically what you refer to when, like someone who winds up getting into a cult.
Oh.
And it's the initial response that they give to new people. It's like they just lavish love and acceptance and positive. Basically what ChatGPT does to you every time you ask it a question. It just positivity. You're so great. We're so glad you're here. That kind of thing, which some people might think churches do, but they intentionally just overwhelm you with this love and
Right.
acceptance that draws you in.
And
so
then they
that-
start convincing you. Of
and
the
then
goodness.
they give you the
Yeah.
crazy stuff. So that's what I've heard about
Well,
love bombing.
that in the context of this, that would make sense for what this person meant.
That's right.
Because they were saying they were doing this to new believers in their church.
To try and get them into their conspiracies and theories and stuff. Yes,
So what do you do?
We do take that this is in the context of a church.
I do, because this
He
person is
said
talking
some-
about being covered in prayer.
and they said
trying
every
to-
small group. were
every
part of it.
group and all the new believers, they're trying to get them
I think
on
I
board.
would take my concern. I would say if I've talked to the person about this
Mhm.
and they won't change, I would bring another believer that agreed with me and try talking to them.
Mhm.
And then if they don't change, I would take my concerns to the leaders, the elders of the church,
Mhm.
and ask them
Mhm.
what should happen.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I think I would do in the context of the church. Because if you really do believe they're doing damage
Yes.
to new believers in your church, it's probably not your responsibility only to be the one to know that that's happening.
Mhm.
But you don't want to go on your opinion only, so you're going to follow what Jesus said, and you're going to take another person. You're going to say, "Hey, have you noticed this? And does this distress you the way?" And they may say to you, "No, it doesn't bother me at all." And then they would tell you why it doesn't bother you. Maybe it would help you calm down and not be distressed. And what
Right.
the other D word was.
Mhm.
What was the other one? Tired,
Exhausted, distressed.
Yeah, that maybe they would help
Yeah.
with that, so that
Mhm.
I don't bear the full responsibility of this thing. And then
Yeah.
if that doesn't do it, I mean, you would need to go to the leader. If the both of you all talk to this person and they are just unwilling, you do need to do your diligence as a part of the church to help this person be disciplined by the church.
And, you know, that's a good point that I think I do want to certainly highlight and elaborate a little bit more on is the responsibility we have as believers within the church that, you know, church leaders certainly have the ultimate responsibility along things like doctrine and teaching and things of those nature. But even as a church community Christian size, we can't know
Mm-mm.
everything that's happening in every you know small group and every kind of thing. And so when there is something and it's you know, Jesus talks about this, the process that Ed just kind of talked about. Jesus talks about when it is clear to me, and he says specifically when a person is caught in sin is the example. When there's a brother or sister who is caught in error, right, in sin. But certainly in the New Testament, there's lines around doctrine and things that you think are harmful teachings.
There are all kinds of things, you know, there's gossip, you know,
Mhm.
Paul goes
Mhm.
directly at people who are spreading gossip and
And
slander in the body.
division,
And
and, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's an underutilized tool. And I think particularly often we jump stages and we jump,
Yes.
you know, you might see it in your group, but then you talk to the person, they don't happen, you jump all the way to the elders. That's really not appropriate.
Right.
It should be that somebody else that has where that the two of you go together and handle that. I've seen that a lot and you know, things that I feel bad about that we just didn't handle the right way, that it should have been handled differently. But
Yeah.
that's what I would say first. If it is indeed in the covering of a church where there are leaders and identified elders or deacons or whatever, bishops, whatever you have in your church
Mhm.
setting, I would make sure I tried to work it up, and not in any speedy fashion. I think by nature of that process, it's intended to be coded in prayer
Right.
with each step along the way.
Yeah.
I've tried to say something and I prayed about, and the Spirit's leading me. The two of us pray, and we try to do it together and cover it in prayer with no fear. There's not fear involved in it. It's just that, and I take it to the elders of the church, and they also
Yeah.
pray.
Well, and the covering in prayer, Paul says in Galatians,
Yeah.
the reason that you're praying before you confront this person isn't I'm afraid of them. It's I am trying to make sure that I am not. He says you become guilty of judgment. And I'm not saying, because once again, the person who wrote this didn't write it to us. So I don't know, it's all on Reddit. But I'm not saying that this person is guilty of judgment, but it is quick and I'll say especially the more outlandish the belief is that the person holds, that I can jump to judgmental thoughts about the person themselves.
Well, there are all kinds of things. Almost anything that another person thinks that I really disagree with, I can label as outlandish. You
can.
Yeah.
I was noticing something I think might be important, especially it sounds like this person is in a relationship with this person who they're having a hard time.
Texting them.
Yeah, you have a personal relationship with them. And I was just noticing a lot of the things that you described in this question was constant texting, pushing, to the point where other people around them are made to feel exhausted and stressed. So if that's the vibe this person's giving off, my concern for them is, first of all, it sounds like a person who's extremely afraid. And when you're dealing with a person who's extremely afraid, probably the worst thing you can do for them is to go, hey, just stop it.
Right.
You got nothing to be afraid of, or you're nuts, you're crazy, there's nothing to be afraid of, because for them, the feeling is real. I would imagine the reason that they're diving into a lot of these conspiracy theories is they're trying to medicate in that way some sort of fear of something that they have. And if you care about this person, again, if this is not somebody that you're close enough to do this with, it's not going to be helpful. But if you are close to this person and they do bring something to you and you care about their heart and this fear, one of the best things you can do for them is just say, hey, I get this. This is all really, really important to you. I can tell that this matters a whole great deal. But here's what I'm concerned. I want to ask you is, if all of this that you're researching, all of this that you're concerned about, what is it that you're really afraid is going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the end goal of all of this? Mm-hmm. And if you can get them to talk on that level, a lot of times you're going to find some common ground. And when I do work with couples, I often find that a lot of the things that we're at odds about, that we're maybe arguing about, if we can get below the surface, most of the time we want the same things.
Sure. Most
of the time. Not always, but most of the time. We want to have, and I find most people, they want peace. They want answers to things. They want to know things or whatever. And asking them that question is, what makes this so important to you? I can see this really is important, or this really freaks you out. Tell me about that. What is it that you're so afraid of? And if you can get them to talk about what they're afraid of, usually you might, not usually, but sometimes you can find a space where you can go, yeah, that concerns me too.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Jesus would have to say about that?
Right.
Or something like that. And if it is a person who's concerned about the core doctrines of Jesus, you might have a chance to talk to them on a level that they can hear. But you might not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and in that case, it's okay to just, disconnect if you have to. But that would be something I'd be concerned about, because most people that I find because I do deal with people in counseling they have family members and they're just like, I can't talk to them anymore. I said, I know. I said, they're probably really, really scared. And then, I never thought of them as being a scared person, because they seem so confident. Right. They seem so angry a lot of times. Mm-hmm. They're probably just scared. Mm-hmm. Scared people do crazy things sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's good. And I think when I'm dealing with a person, so we kind of talked about what do I do when a person's in my church or I'm dealing with a person, you mentioned a person I've got relationship with. I think if this is a person, in this case, it seems like it's someone who has, your phone number or your whatever. Mm-hmm. I would try and delve as quickly as I could into the thought of what level of influence do I have in this person's life, and what level of responsibility do I have? Because there are certainly people who I am Facebook friends with, who send me things. Mm-hmm. That are, conspiracy level things. And sometimes I choose to engage. A lot of times I choose not to engage.
That's right.
Yeah.
I have very little relationship with this person. I have very little influence in their life. I don't have a church. I think if they're in my church, it's a different deal. I have a level of responsibility because you were in my church. We are brothers and sisters. I have a different level of responsibility to you. And Ed already kind of talked to some level about what that is. If I think what you're doing is certainly damaging to other people, damaging to yourself, then yeah, I may have to handle that differently. But if this is just a person that I've got on my Facebook friend list, I have very little influence in their life, and they want to constantly send me these things. As Jason used the phrase disconnect, I think that's an appropriate place for you to go. Mm-hmm. It is not my responsibility to correct all error in the world. Right. There is a lot of, and I know there are a lot of people, and I've heard people say this before, and I'm not skeptical of anyone's motives. I'm skeptical of the efficacy, the effectiveness of any kind of social media is where I'm going to change hearts and minds. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go online, and I know people, and I mean this. I think their motive is pure. That people talk about, it's a mission field. It's like going to a thing, and I go, God did not create social media. I don't have to redeem social media. Some things that man creates, I can be rid of. God did not create the nuclear bomb, and I am not called to redeem the nuclear bomb and go, here, what's the proper use for this thing? Some things we can just go, you know what? That's not a helpful thing. And there are a lot of people that are there, but those are also real people, and I can engage with them in other places, not social media. And I do think, I know a lot of people are very concerned about even family members. They never see, and I mean never. These are like, this is my third cousin, and I go, you don't interact with this person, but you feel like God has called you to correct every political opinion, every conspiracy opinion. And I go, you might be, to me, that's where things get distressing and exhausting, is I have now welcomed you into this conversation. I have engaged with your thing.
Well, distressing and exhausting, I can only speak for me. That happens when I've taken on responsibility for something I shouldn't really have responsibility for. And it happens often. It happens with children. It happens with people that you really care about, and you see them in distress and you want to fix it, but you don't have control. And then you begin to try to get control, and you can't get control because they won't listen, or you can't get them to behave the right way. But because I felt like it was my responsibility to fix that, then that becomes distressing and exhausting. Whereas if I just, there's that balance that the New Testament teaches of us. I have to carry my brother's burden, but each man must bear his own weight.
Yeah. That's right.
That's almost in the same place in the scripture.
It is, yeah.
And I have to determine, I do want to carry your burden, so I can pray for you. I can lift you before the Lord. I can try to reason with you. But at the end of the day, the responsibility, the weight of that is not mine.
Right.
And I have to be willing to, it's the way, I guess, it took me a long time in ministry to learn that there are things that, I am trying to help somebody with, but I'm not responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a really key distinctive that all of us have to learn. And, I've learned on social media and also with texting, there are people, in the world now. It used to be easier when we had home phone lines and you could screen calls, and I wouldn't even give people my home number. They'd call me at the office or, or that kind of thing. And, now, our numbers, they get pretty widely shared, among people. Sometimes if you text me and it's just craziness, I slow text you. If you text me and I didn't ask you to text me and you have a whole bunch of things that are nutty to me, I might text you back in 3 days. I might just ignore it and wait until I see you and say, hey man, I read that long text, and sometimes I don't read every word of long text, so let's talk about it. Yeah. I just wouldn't get caught in a back and forth. And online, like if you don't want to, if you don't want to block the person, I can understand that, particularly if you're in church. That feels a little rude, but I got texts that I'll just see it and I'll click on and go, okay, just ignore that. And then on social media, like I had an interaction just this last week with somebody that I was in my life and lives in my community. and then sort of got out of my life, but I would see things on social media, made me feel a certain way about them and think them. So I hid them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wound up seeing them in person. And it reminded me, oh, this is still a normal person. They just have some really odd ideas about things. And we interacted okay. But I'm probably still going to keep them hid on Facebook so I can think the best of them and that kind of stuff. And, you know,
and
I just don't have to see it all.
Yeah.
This certainly is a very specific example, and I don't think that most people I encounter are dealing, and I'm talking about in our church primarily, are dealing with people in their life who are pestering them constantly. Like this is like they're texting me all the time.
Yeah.
They're doing this. But I do know people who they have family members. It's adult children with their parents. They feel like their parents have bought into conspiracy theory stuff, or parents who think their kids have gotten all off, or I've got a coworker, I've got a person, and I do care about them. I do have a relationship with them. And I do think that the conspiracy theory, whether it be spiritual, political, social, you know, something going on in the world, it is causing them distress, or it's leading them honestly to some beliefs and actions in the world that they think are harming other people. They think, you know, you're supporting things that aren't whatever. At what level do we think a Christian person who wants to love their neighbor, act justly, you know, love, mercy, all those things, what level of responsibility do I have? Because that's when people come to me is, when do I just decide I'm not going to talk to that person about that anymore? And when do I decide, hey, I need to say to my, you know, I'm an adult child, and I got to talk to my parents about, hey, I think some of the beliefs you have are really not helpful. They're harmful. When do I decide that's an appropriate time for me to say something? Or when do I decide, hey, I can still love this person, but we're just not going to talk about this thing?
I think Ed made a good distinction. If it's somebody who's just, you know, throwing things out and you're just happening to see them, they're not asking you.
That's right.
And so I don't feel the need to respond if you're not asking or trying to give this to me directly.
Yeah.
It's different when, you know, you're sitting across a dinner table and somebody goes, well, here's what you need to know or need
here's
to believe.
What's going on in the world you don't know about.
That's right. And then you certainly, even in that situation though, you can certainly still listen with, you know, kindness and gentleness and grace and all those things. And you don't have to become towards them the way they're becoming towards you. That's the other thing I was going to say to this person who asked the question is, be careful that you don't become the person that goes, well, I got to get you to think like me.
Yes.
Because now we're kind of in a stalemate. You always want to stay, and when I say open, I don't mean just open to believe whatever anybody gives you, but I mean open to this person, that they are still someone that I do care for and love, and I care about the state of their life and of their soul, certainly, and things of that nature. And so I stay sensitive to where the Spirit might be leading me to serve them, to love them in outside of all of this stuff, you know. But at the same time, if, like I said, if it is being directed towards you and it is uncomfortable, and it's not something you want to talk about, boundaries are a thing. And you can say, hey, you know, I get this matters to you, but, you know, I would just rather we not dive into politics, or maybe this is just not something for this time or place. Can we get, you know, talk about other things? Let's talk about your kids and your life and, you know, or whatever. And if they're receptive to that and say, okay, yeah, I get it, then fine. But if they persist, well, then you've got other decisions to make.
That's right.
You've got to say, hey, you know, I asked you not to, you know, pile this on me, and can we just not do that? And if they can't take no for an answer, well, then that's your answer.
Yeah, and that's a different level. And I think what ends up happening is a lot of people, at least when I talk to people, I go, well, what have you said? I often find most people haven't said anything.
True.
Or it's gotten into we both started yelling at each other,
right.
And then we had to apologize. And what we ended up apologizing for was what we fought about. We never even talked the way we fought with each other. We didn't talk about the thing. And so, but if everyone assumes, well, if I just say, hey, I disagree, they're going to become persistent and belligerent. Yeah. So I go ahead and start cutting them off before they've actually become persistent and belligerent, because I've assumed I know they will become, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think to your point of, and which I thought was good, is if I'm in an actual conversation with this person, and I've been in those conversations where I'm sitting at a dinner table and someone says something that I go, I've been in many dinner table conversations. Someone says something nuts, and I just go, okay, because I'm like,
you don't have to respond.
It's not harmful. It's they think some weird thing about Elvis. Elvis is still alive, and I go, okay, whatever, and I just move on. But then there are other things people say, and I go, because me and you are both believers. I do think that the thought you have is actually leading you to think certain ways about loving your neighbors or doing justice that is going to be harmful, and we need to talk about that. What I have found in those situations is two things. One is gentle non-cooperation with evil. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to convince you of anything. Mm-mm. Often, if all I will say is, yeah, I've not found that to be true.
That's right.
That's right.
I don't agree with you, because what I have found with most people is most people live in such an echo chamber, and I'm including myself. Mm-hmm. My podcast feed is almost entirely people I agree with. I don't tend to just want to listen to things that make me angry because I disagree with them. In fact, I've had to curate that, because there was a time in my life I tried to listen to opposition because it would make me better at debating it. And I've had to not do that. Mm-hmm. So most people assume I'm going to make this broad statement and everyone agrees, because most people are not argumentative people. They don't go to dinner with you to try and beat you down.
That's right.
They assume you agree. And when they say, well, you know this about the president, positive or negative, they assume you think the same thing. And when you just go, yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, they then immediately go, okay.
You gave them a social cue, and then you become aware, they become aware, they're not on the same page. I don't have to confront you.
Yeah.
I just give you a social cue. I don't really want to continue, and I don't agree with you.
And it might cause them to then go back and go.
Right. That's right.
And then they might invite you in and go, oh, well, what do you think?
Well, I remember one time I was in a conversation with a family member, and that very thing happened. They said something, and I think it was pretty political, and I said something very similar to what you said, Nathan. I said, well, I'm not sure I've, come to that conclusion, but okay. And I just kind of let them, and they sat back for a second. They said, oh, well, you must be a Democrat. And I said, oh, no, that's not why I came to that conclusion. I said, I actually came to that conclusion because I'm a Christian. And they went, huh. And it put the conversation on a completely different track. And we ended up fine. Yeah, but it was one of those situations where they just thought everybody who's a Christian or on my side of the political aisle must think this way.
That's right.
No, not exactly. I think, and it was somewhere in the middle. It wasn't a hard, right versus left kind of thing. It was just kind of in the middle, and it turned out okay. But it actually challenged their thinking. Just
a gentle. I don't cooperate with what you think.
Yeah.
I don't go along with what you think, but I'm still here for you. I still love you.
That's right.
That's the second thing I would say is and I do have people in my life who they know I disagree with them on some pretty key things, and they tend to like to come with me. Have you thought about this?
Yeah.
But because they're inviting me in and they don't become belligerent, it's just sometimes it's a little tiring because I'm like, okay, we got to do this again. What I frequently now try to do is I try to come on the same. I try to remind them of what we hold in common. So especially if they're a believer, I will often start and go, "Hey," if I have to confront them, I'll say, "I know that you and we both love Jesus, and I know you to be a kind person. If I know these things to be true, if I think you're total, but I tend to not have lots of lunches with people that I think negative things about. And it's helpful to me to remind myself, I do know this person to be a kind person. On 99% of issues, this is a person I consider loving, kind, generous. I believe that you love Jesus and you want to do what Jesus says. But this thing you believe, or this thing in your life, it seems to me to be not the way of Jesus. Help me understand why this is something that doesn't bother your conscience or whatever. And what it does is, and I know you've used this illustration before in marriage counselings, of it puts me and them on the same side of the table and goes, the issue is not you and you're a scummy person who, because what ends up, especially in political or religious things, the belief is well, if you're on this side of the aisle, you're this kind of person.
Yep.
I don't think that about you.
Mm-mm.
I don't think all the baggage that comes with this issue. But this issue here, I don't think corresponds with the way of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Help me understand how you see it. And they certainly have a point of view how it works. And then that invites me into to go, okay, well, have you thought about this? Because Jesus also says this. I lead a group here about racial reconciliation in our church, and that's the way we try to talk about sticky issues like race, complex that are highly emotional, and that if I go to someone and say, hey, I think you're wrong about this race thing, especially if they're a white person, what they just heard is, you think I'm a racist and a terrible person. Therefore, I can't admit you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I admit you're right about my wrong belief,
Mm-hmm.
I'm admitting to being a racist. Well, then I can't help anybody in that place. But if I come and go, hey, this idea you have,
Mm-hmm.
it's a different kind of thing. So those are the two I would do. But most of the time, the gentle non-cooperation does pretty darn good.
With most people.
Yes. All right. That's our time for today. I'm calling it.
Call it.
That's right. Long question, even longer answer. So hopefully it helped. We will see you guys next week.